One of the biggest successes that we have doing our 90-day transformation program with chiropractors is being able to find what do we need to get back on track? Like what is the goals? Like what are people's visions and what do they love to do? Often once we get in this cycle, we're behind the eight ball. Now we're just doing what we always used to do. And then we often we lose the vision of where we want to go. And if you're doing things that are uninspiring, they make you tired. That's tiring, is we're doing things that are uninspiring. Well, hello everybody, and welcome to another episode of the Informed Chiropractor. This is Dr. Don McDonald, your host. And sorry, we fell off the face of the earth. We were planning on doing every 2 weeks doing a podcast episode, and then a distraction happened. We came home from one of our seminars and our dog had a hard time walking. His back end was giving out, and we'd done a lot of research on what's going on with him. And it's like some degenerative disease. I've been adjusting him. He's, getting up to 13 years old. And and so apparently dogs it's kind of like an ALS for dogs. I can't remember what the name of it is, but it starts to give out on their back end, and they start to lose the motor control, just like ALS. And then they eventually lose bladder control, and then they actually end up passing away. And so we thought we'd have to do an emergency putting him down right around Christmas. And we really didn't want to do that because good old Lexi baby, our son, as I call him, has been with us for like 12 years. And so it was kind of traumatizing, and he ended up pulling through and doing a little bit better, but then he kind of plateaued, and then he's I think we might have to be putting him down here in the next week or two. So it is coming to the end, but it's interesting because we also had our dog sitter was going to go to school in the States, and so we were going to lose our dog sitter at the same time. And so this is just a great example of how life's little distractions can take us off track. And we've also just finished up doing our 90-day mentoring program with 4 different chiropractors from 4 different countries around the world. And it has always been super exciting for us. But what I find is a lot of times people will have something happen in their life. So for example, us, Lux, suddenly taking a big turn for the bad. And then all of a sudden, all of our plans get put on hold. And for those in our group, the Informed Chiropractor, they all know we were actually really late at planning everything this year. So we were late at planning any seminars. We're late because we didn't really know how Lux was going to be doing. We didn't know if we had any dog care. So we just basically had to put everything on hold. And it wasn't up till recently where we booked some stuff, but we had nothing on the calendar yet because we didn't really know if we could. And the ironic thing is when we work with our 90-day people, sometimes something like this happens, or maybe nothing such abrupt, but maybe, you have children or something, you move, or you go on a big holiday, and then you come back and something disrupts your routine, and then you start kind of responding to things. Actually more reacting to things, not responding to things. Reacting to things is almost like living your life on defense, and now you're doing the day-to-day activities because you're kind of behind the eight ball, and then that's not super inspiring. So when you're doing, fire, like putting out fires, being behind the eight ball, that all starts to drag on you. So, we get this busy phenomenon where people are super busy, but they're not inspired with what they're doing because it's all reactionary, and then they get burnt out. And then you even have less energy to do what you need to do, and then you even get more burnt out. So it's it's a big cascade. And I think one of the biggest successes that we have doing our 90-day transformation program with chiropractors is being able to find what do we need to get back on track? Like what is the goals? Like what are people's visions, and what do they love to do, and what is their goals? Like what do they want to do? What do they love to do? Often once we get in this cycle, we're behind the eight ball. Now we're just doing what we always used to do. And then we often we lose the vision of where we want to go. And if we're not clear on the vision, Dr. DiMartini he's one of my biggest mentors early in practice. And if you're doing things that are uninspiring, they make you tired. That's tiring, is we're doing things that are uninspiring. And so if we haven't done the work to get some time away from our life, to create some space to actually determine what's important or what will inspire us, we end up continuing to do things that are coming off our plate. And then we're the when I, then I, like if I finish this, then at some point life will be better, or at some point I can rest, or some point I can recharge. It's really interesting to see that when people take that time to get back inspired and get back on track, their energy just comes back. Like it is pretty amazing. Brandi for Christmas had got me a float. And so I'm not sure if you're familiar with it, but in Edmonton we have these float tanks. It's like a massage studio, except it's a float tank studio. And so basically what you do is you go into these rooms. They have about 2,000 pounds of Epsom salts in the water, and the water is about maybe 2 feet deep. And then you basically will just lie on your back in this room. My arms are like out to the side as far as they can, and I can just barely touch the sides. And it's taller than me, so I'm 6'4", so it's probably like about a 7-foot long tank, or maybe a little bit longer than that. And you just sit there, earplugs in, pitch black, no noise, no sound, nothing. It's almost basically like sensory deprivation. And it was actually funny because I was getting in that feeling where, you're sad because you're dealing with something that's in crisis right now, but you don't have anything planned, and you should have things planned, and then you feel like in this abyss. And so I was feeling a little bit burnt out. And it's funny, just 75 minutes just sitting there just with your thoughts, like kind of filtering through the thoughts, and then just going through my body and just like releasing tension in different parts of my body until at the end, 75 minutes sounds like a really long time, but actually once you get in the zone, it actually went really well. And so those are the things that we need to help us to get back on track. So we either need to get some time away where we can think, or we need to get around someone who inspires or helps to trigger the inspiration outside of us through questions, or their inspiration through the actions that they're doing. And so with our 90-day mentoring program, we had biggest things are people just getting back on track, doing things that they used to do that they don't do it anymore just because they got off track, focusing on sometimes on health habits as we get older. Brandi had just started the Body by Brandi program for women over 40, going through pre-menopause and menopause. And as we get older, I'm seeing this more and more now that I'm turning 54, I think, coming up here in April. And then my body just responds differently. And so sometimes we can use what we did in the past as cues for what we can do in the present to succeed. However, if we're trying to regain our health or our vitality, sometimes that's not going to work, because that's how I end up tearing cartilage in my knee when I was 40, is that in the old days, if I was stressed or I was tight, I would just go for a run, and I did it again, and then that's when I tore my knee. And so as we get older, our fascia gets stiffer a lot quicker. We need to just be a little bit more on the, I'm like the expert or the king of low impact. That's my, I call myself low impact, the ninja of low impact exercise. But those are the things that we have to do. We have to figure out, what do we need to do to get back on track? And is that going to work? Can we use things from the past that worked before? Like, for example, work with a chiropractor who used to recommend really good care plans, and then had moved and got all distracted and stopped doing that. And so getting back to that old success pattern is very, very quickly gets them back on track again. For example, health routines, though, is if we're getting older, women having children, being more depleted, should they go back and go full blast into CrossFit or running marathons? Maybe that might not be what they need to actually get to the next level. And so there's two parts around this. And so I just wanted to talk a little bit about that distraction, because it happened with us. And so we finally got some time away. We actually still had our dog sitter to be able to look after Lux for a weekend, and we just went to Vancouver. And when we go to Vancouver, people are like, "What do you do in Vancouver?" And well, we're going to a nice hotel. We're staying at the Fairmont. It's a beautiful gold room. We work out every day. We hang out in the lounge, and we actually just do planning. And so Brandi was organizing stuff for her Body by Brandi. You're just kind of going through organizing your thoughts. On the way there, we'd book some flights for some holidays, book some rooms for seminars. Those times away are so important. And that's why even just attending seminars is super helpful as well, because when we attend a seminar, we're getting outside of our life. Like Brandi was laughing, saying, it's amazing how we can relax way more outside of our house than when we're inside our house. And we don't even have kids running around. We have a sick, ailing dog that takes a lot of effort at the moment. But we even noticed just taking a weekend away was super helpful. So just wanted to share that with you, is that if you feel like you've got distracted, especially coming in through Christmas, we get into the new year. A lot of people have New Year's resolutions, but this is about the time where those New Year's resolutions start falling away. And maybe we just need to sit down, take some time for ourselves, go in a float tank, take a weekend away. If you can't go to a seminar, we've had some of our female chiropractors that are moms actually just rent a hotel room in their own city so they can just get an evening away, because sometimes we just need some quiet time just to kind of sort through our thoughts, and gives us a little more opportunity to get ahead of the game. So if we have our inspiration, we've figured out we call them the linchpins. What are the things that we can do that are the least amount of energy that's going to give us the most amount of results so that we can hit the goals that we want to hit, so that we can get back on track to hitting things in stride. Because our goal is to always be ahead of the game. Being proactive, we always talk about health being the pathogenic model is reactionary to symptoms and diagnosed disease. And the salutogenic model is building health, or I often say playing health on offense. And so when we practice that in our philosophy, in our chiropractic office, we really want to make sure that we practice that in our life too, especially our health too. A lot of chiropractors, sometimes we're a little bit stubborn going to the pathological side. Like if we needed, like for me, I tore cartilage in my knee and I was like, that's it, I'm healing it naturally. And I basically suffered with crazy knee pain for 8 years, working every day. I was in pain. And then I go and I get the cartilage cleaned up, and then I'm like, about 80% better just from doing that. And I was like, I probably should have done that a little bit earlier. But I think that's the benefit as chiropractors, is that we are well aware of the salutogenic side and we're well aware of the pathogenic side. Sometimes we need to dip to that pathogenic side, but again, we have the knowledge and the ability to get back on track, and instead of being in the reactionary mode, get more to that proactive mode. The other thing is just Brandi, when she was going through her the first week of the Body by Brandi, she's just talking about self-integrity. And self-integrity is basically doing stuff that you say you're going to do for yourself. And so often we've set goals, or we've made commitments to things that we can't do, but we feel bad about it, or we don't know how to create boundaries. And then we say that we're going to do them. And then when we have to break it off at the end, every single time that we don't do what we say we're going to do to ourselves, it chips away at our self-esteem. And so this is a really important thing to find out what's inspiring to you, or what's going to make the most amount of difference, because then you can start making little mini action steps, little mini inputs that are actually going to take you in the direction that you want to go. But then it's also going to give you that positive feedback, because when you do what you say you're going to do, that gives you a positive feedback loop saying that you've done that. So it gives you the confidence to move forward. And so building that self-integrity is also a massive part about being proactive and ahead of the game as far as, your life, your health, your relationships, your business, all those kind of things. So I thought I would just say that, because we just went through that, and I could see we'd end up putting Lux down, and then you'd be in kind of shock after that. And then who knows, you could be months or years after where you didn't even get back on track again. And so the whole goal is, we know life's going to throw curveballs at us all the time, but it's just how quickly you get back on. We call it in my book, The Underdog Curse, closing the loops, right? Or closing the refractory period. So how quickly after something happens are you able to jump back? And that was we just did that last podcast on your regulatory reserves, how to improve your regulatory reserves. So that was a good example for that. So I'm just going to give you guys a little head up, because we did finally plan something. So we do have some stuff coming up. So we're going to do something really cool. I think we're going to call it Ignite. And our goal is to do a 1 day, kind of like a mastermind. But basically it's condensing our 90-day program into 1 day. And we're going to do it in Toronto on March 8th. And we're going to have for a small group of people, just to start off with kind of like a beta group. And we just want to see if we can get the same amount of change that we do in 90 days, or at least be able to trigger a lot of that in a 1 day process. And so it'll be 6 hours to go through that program. And I think we're only going to be taking maybe 6 or 8 people at the maximum. So keep an eye out for that, because that we will have our registration page up for that very soon. We have Denver on May 3rd. So that's for level 2. That's going to be all the lower safety corridor and the pelvis. We're going to dive deep into the pelvis. When people are stressed, and especially after the holidays, probably a lot of you saw after Christmas, bad hip flexors, internally rotated femurs, adductors, which go to the knees, digestive system, like all from eating and being with maybe stressed out with family or stressed out with financial challenges during the holidays. Like I said, with doing the safety corridor work that we've done before, it just really helps people to regulate a lot quicker. So we're going to be doing level 2 in Denver. You do not have to have done level 1 in order to do level 2. We just probably have a little intro polyvagal lens through adjusting. It's about a 1 hour call that you just watch beforehand so that you just get familiar with all the concepts. But if you've listened to the podcast, you're already familiar with them. So that would already be a heads up. We're coming back to Australia, and that's going to be on June 13th and 14th. And on the 13th, on the Friday, because we don't get to Australia very often, we're going to do a little bit of a hybrid. So we're doing level 2, but we're going to put a little bit of level 3 into that seminar, just because I don't know when we're going to get back there. So what we found really helpful is putting in some shoulders, because a lot of that protected posture, when our nervous system's in a protected, dysregulated state, we totally get anterior head carriage, we get internally rotated shoulders. And so we're just going to add the shoulder component into the level 2, just because that's super helpful. And we don't have time to cover that at all in level 1. So the first day is going to be a level 2 with bonus shoulders in Sydney. And then the second day, we are doing our chiropractic business relevancy accelerator. And what this is, we're going to take the whole day and go through different procedures to the office and just go through how can we make this relevant to each individual person. With the Vitality Shift, we've always focused on making our content and also our patient education and our procedures and policies relevant to the person in front of you. Rather than in the old days, we just do scripts and tell everybody the exact same thing. We want to be a little bit more ninja. We want to find out what's important to the people. We want to find a little bit about their personality, find out what kind of goals that they would have in their life so that we can get them excited about chiropractic care far beyond just their pain relief. And so this is going to be a really good day. So we're going to go through all the different things from the office. Staff are welcome to come to this one as well. This is the first time we're doing the Relevancy Accelerator program, and we're going to do that for teams on the Saturday in Sydney. So if you can make it to any of those events, we would love to see you. And now that, unfortunately, we're going to have to get our Lux is going to have to be put down here in the next week or two, and we're going to be very sad, but we still are going to be staying on track. So our goal is still to kind of keep things on the rail. I always remember the analogy where they say if a plane flies from, say, Edmonton here to Hawaii, like 98% of the time it's off course. And so you got to do quick course corrections. And so, if you've had any kind of trauma in your life, death in the family, or move, or somebody quit at your office, or a bad like associate, or whatever is going on, just remember to try to pull it back on course. And if you want to have our 1 day Ignite, just keep an eye open for March 8th in Toronto. We're going to have our Ignite full day, 6 hours to success, and trying to basically take all the gems that we do out of our 90-day program and see if we can get them all done in 1 day. And so we're really looking forward to that too. So podcast is back on. I will see you again in 2 weeks. Until next time, have yourself a great day. Dr. Don out.